what is the role of some of the other groups, or will the CDA sort of subsume some of the other sort of groups that are out there? I'm thinking pCPA, obviously, if you're at the point where you're making recommendations and you have line of sight to all of the data, do you just fold that in? And even I'll throw it out controversially, even the PMPRB, which is moving in its latest recommendations to something that looks a little bit like the pCPA slash CADITH as it stands today. So with all these sort of overlapping bodies, does this become the opportunity to sort of fundamentally remake the drug approval and market access landscape in Canada?
As CDA evolves, will they actually also better potentially collaborate with and work with other parts of the system that's looking at the drug prices and utilization? I really do hope so. I mean, for example, it's called Canadian Drug Agency. So I really do hope that there is a lot of synergies and collaboration with DNS and Quebec, because I think that's quite important as a Canadian drug agency. I don't know what that looks like yet, but I do think that that's probable. And then there's also that idea of, okay, so pCPA, in terms of negotiating in Canada right now, CADITH has always been a little bit sort of like they don't know the real prices. They kind of run their recommendation, and the pCPA and the jurisdictions have to kind of act on it, and they do their negotiations are very apart from HTAs. But in other countries like UK and Australia, there's a lot more collaboration between the HTA and sort of the ministry or government that is negotiating. So those models are possible. And maybe, evolution of CDA involves something like that. But like I said, I'm not going to comment on PMPRB. I feel like that's probably also beyond my expertise.
So I'd love to pick up on this too. I think Sangmi did a wonderful job explaining how the Canadian healthcare system and pharmaceutical system works in Canada. There's a lot of politics involved, of course, with our constitution and some of the issues between the federal government versus the province and territories, Quebec, etc. So we won't get into those aspects. We'll leave that to the politicians and the senior officials to help manage that. But if you look back to the report that Eric Hoskins released in June of 2019, two of the most important recommendations that came out of that report was, number one, create a universal single-payer public system of drug coverage and create a Canadian drug agency. And they went on to expand that by saying that could be formed by taking components or all of various agencies. It could be portions of Health Canada. It could be portions of CADITH, pCPA, PMPRB. Here we go with all these acronyms again. The Pan-Canadian Pharmaceutical Alliance, the Patented Medicine Prices Review Board, the Canadian Institute of Health Research. So all kinds of aspects were talked about that could be part of that Canadian drug agency. Will we ever get to the point where all of those groups, we do have this one single body plus Quebec to manage pharmaceuticals in Canada? I don't think so. However, I do think there's a wonderful opportunity to try and decrease some of that fragmentation that we have in the Canadian drug system.